Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Second Look Bible study, where a second look always takes you deeper into God's Word. My name is Jim Schaefer. I'm a retired pastor and Bible teacher, and I share a Bible study every single Tuesday afternoon. Now, right now, we are in the midst of a study on understanding the Old Testament. And today's lesson is going to focus on the book of 2 Samuel. Now, 2 Samuel is the 10th book of the Old Testament and forms a part of the historical narrative and tells about the rise of King David. It serves as a continuation of 1 Samuel, and it will focus on David's consolidation of power and his kingship over Israel. It's also going to provide us details of his personal and political life, and not all of it is good. I have decided to start each of our lessons with a little quiz, and we're going to make this a regular feature. I'm going to call this 5 out of 5. And my challenge to you is, how many of these can you get right? So, question number 1. And would love for you to answer these in the comments. It helps you to remain engaged, and I can see what kind of answers you provide. And then we can respond to one another. I've got Facebook up right now, so I can take a look at your answers. We're going to start with a very simple question, and that question is, what are the first 5 books of the Bible called? Now, there's actually 3 titles that you could give me here. So there's 3 answers for this first question. I see Jackie Snyder is with us and Corey Schmidt. I'm sure there are others that will be joining us. And if you're watching this after the fact, one of the reruns, go ahead and still answer. It helps, again, for you to think through the topic that we're studying. So what are the first 5 books of the Old Testament called? Again, there are 3 answers, and you can use any one of those answers. So let's see if anybody has come up with an answer yet. I see one comment. Oh, just a hello. I see my wife has joined us. Jackie Snyder is here. Michelle Banner is here. What are the first 5 books of the Old Testament called? And again, sometimes I don't get your answers as quickly as you give them, but I'll keep looking. Question number 2, and we'll review them at the end. Which book of the Bible tells about Israel's wandering in the wilderness? We've talked about that a couple of weeks ago. What book of the Bible tells about Israel's wandering in the wilderness or in the desert? Again, remember the pictures, the cartoon pictures we've used. Number 3, what does this picture, this cartoon picture, which book is represented by it? Which book is represented by that picture? Should be a pretty easy one for you to do. Question number 4. During what period does the story of Ruth take place? Now, again, we talked about a number of periods. In fact, we'll throw up that timeline. We're going to talk about it in a minute. We saw, of course, creation and the patriarchs in Genesis, and then Exodus, and then the conquest of Israel, the period of time of the judges, and right now we're in the kingdom period. But what period does this picture or this book, the book of Ruth, take place? And number 5, what or why did the Israelites want a king? Why did the Israelites want a king? So again, we'll keep taking a quick peek here and see what kind of responses we're getting. You guys are very quiet today. I don't know what's going on with you. I see Doug Robb with us. Hello, Doug. Nice to have you with us. So, again, the questions are, what are the first 5 books of the Bible called? Number 2, which book of the Bible tells about Israel's wandering in the wilderness? 3, what book is represented by the cartoon picture? And it looked like this. And during what period does the story of Ruth take place? And question 5, why did the Israelites want a king? All right, so let me provide you some quick answers. The first question was, what are the first 5 books of the Old Testament called? They're referred to as the Pentateuch, which means 5 books, or the Torah, or the law of Moses. Okay, so any of those answers would have been correct. If you answered them in your head and didn't write them down, that's all right. Number 2, which book of the Bible tells about Israel's wandering in the wilderness? And the correct answer is the book of Numbers. Number 3 was, what book is represented by this picture? And the correct answer is, that is the book of Judges. And it's about the cycles of sin. All right, hence the judge riding the motorcycle. How many cycles of sin were there? 7. Number 4, during what period does the story of Ruth take place? Well, it takes place right during the picture that we just showed you. It takes place during the time of the judges. And number 5, why did the Israelites want a king? Why did they want a king? And the answer is pretty simple. They wanted to be like all the other nations. They didn't want God as their king. All right? Foolishness on their part. They wanted to be like everybody else, and there's a message in that for us as well. All right, so let's go to the timeline that we have used so far as we have been working our way through the Old Testament. And again, remember that my desire is to help you not only know what each book is about, but how it fits into the overall story. Here's the timeline. We start with creation and the patriarchs. We've seen the creation and the beginning of the nation of Israel in Genesis. In Exodus, we journey with the children of Israel as they exited Egypt. That's why Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy are underneath the Exodus section. In Exodus, we journey with the children of Israel as they exit Egypt. They receive the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. They're given instructions on how to build the tabernacle. In the book of Leviticus, we learn about the Levitical priesthood, about how to approach God, about the offerings and the feasts. Remember the Levite holding the offering in one hand and feast in the other hand. And the book of Leviticus reminds their people of their responsibility as the people of God. And then book number 4 is Numbers. We saw why Israelites had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years, because they had disobeyed God over and over and over again. In the book of Deuteronomy, remember our picture, duet, run on me. Deuteronomy is about the second giving of the law. They're outside the promised land. They've wandered for 40 years. Most of that generation has died. A new generation has arisen, and Moses is giving them the instructions that he had given. It's really a review of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and all of that takes place in the book of Deuteronomy. We then move from there to the period of time of the conquest. And in Joshua, we see General Joshua helping to conquer the land of Canaan. In the book of Judges, which is the next section, we learn about 10 judges and, of course, the continual cycles of sin. And then we enter into what is known as the kingdom period. Last week we talked about 1 Samuel, and here is the picture for 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel is the first book in this kingdom period. It serves as a bridge between the period of time of the judges, and in fact, it includes two additional judges that we didn't learn about in the book of Judges. That is Eli, who was also a priest, and Samuel, who was also a priest and a judge. At the Israelites' request, Samuel anoints Saul as Israel's first king, again, so that they could have a king like everybody else. Do you remember our picture for 1 Samuel? Here it is, first Sand Mule. We see a king with a saw in his hand, and it reminds us of King Saul. Saul. He's resting his foot on a sand mule, which tells us the name of the book. There's one sand mule. But the most important part of this picture is Saul's heart. Saul had no heart for God, and God rejected him as king. When he dies, that makes room for David to be the new king. The book of 1 Samuel tells the story of David and how he killed the giant Goliath and how he was persecuted by Saul. Now, today we're going to move into 2 Samuel. As you can see from our walk through the Bible picture, for 2 Samuel, there's a king sitting between two sand mules. All right? That gives us the name of the book, 2 Samuel. The king has a slingshot in his hip, and he's playing a harp. This tells us that the king is King David, who is known for killing the giant Goliath with his slingshot, and he also played the harp to comfort King Saul. We read about all of that in the book of 1 Samuel. Now, David was known also for writing many songs or psalms. And again, that's the book of Psalms that we're going to get to in just a little bit. But again, the most important part of this picture is the picture of his heart. Did you notice that he has a whole heart for God, unlike Saul, who had no heart for God? Now, this doesn't mean that David was perfect. He wasn't. But he was described as a man after God's own heart. I wanted to provide you real quick here with an outline for the book of 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel can be understood having three parts. Part 1, chapters 1 through 10, is David's triumphs. All right? And the topics are his success and his obedience to God. The second section of Samuel is chapters 11 all the way through 11:27, and it talks about David's transgressions. This is where we're going to learn about Bathsheba, David's sin and his disobedience. And the third section is going to be David's troubles. We're going to have the topics of failure and judgment, and that's chapter 12 through chapter 24. Now, all of this, other than for just a little bit of the first chapter, takes place in Jerusalem. And the basic theme of 2 Samuel is God's sovereignty in establishing David's kingdom and the complexities of human leadership and the enduring promise of the Davidic covenant. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. I want you to notice that there are really 5-6 individuals that we're going to pay attention to in this particular book. It is primarily about King David. After the death of Saul and Jonathan, King David is anointed king, first over Judah and later over all of Israel. This period highlights his political power in uniting all of the tribes and establishing Jerusalem as his capital city. The second individual that we need to be aware of is Joab. Now, Joab was David's military commander. He was known for his loyalty, his tactical brilliance, and occasionally his ruthlessness. We're going to see him in a little bit later in this book. The third individual is Nathan, who is the prophet, who serves as David's spiritual advisor and delivers God's messages, including a rebuke of David's sins. The fourth character that I want you to see is Absalom. Absalom was David's son, whose rebellion against his father creates one of the most tragic stories in the entire Bible. And we'll look at that in just a moment. And then the final individuals are Bathsheba and Uriah. Bathsheba was the individual who caused David to sin. That's probably not the right way to say it. We can't put the blame on Bathsheba, but the failure was David's. Bathsheba was married to Uriah, and we see that David even has Uriah killed. And this is all part of the downfall of King David. So, we see the key individuals there in this book of 2 Samuel. The major stories in 2 Samuel are, number one, David becoming the king. And again, setting up Jerusalem as his capital city. The second story is the Ark of the Covenant. Now remember, the Ark of the Covenant was with the traveling tabernacle, and the Ark of the Covenant is lost, and David is going to find it, rescue it, and bring it to Jerusalem in a grand procession. And this helps to underscore the centrality of God's presence and worship in David's kingdom. Now, I pulled up a picture here that kind of shows David there in the forefront. And it says, wearing a linen ephod, David was dancing before the Lord with all his might, while he and all Israel were bringing up the ark of the Lord with shouts and the sound of the trumpets. And again, this is one of the things that helps to underscore David's tremendous leadership and spiritual leadership in the book of 2 Samuel. Now, the next story is God's covenant with David. In this particular chapter, we read about God establishing an everlasting covenant with David. And he promises to David that his lineage will lead to a perpetual kingdom. And this is a prophecy that links Christians to the coming of Jesus Christ. In fact, the key verse there in chapter 7 is found in verse 16. And it says, God says, your house, your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever. Now, we need to understand here that this is not talking about an earthly kingdom. Yes, David's son, Solomon, is going to become the next king, and he is going to rule the land. But following that, the kingdom is divided, and David's leadership is no more. So what could this possibly mean? Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. It's because the Messiah, the one promised all the way back to Abraham, is going to come from David's line. And David is the ancestor of Jesus. And so David's throne is going to be established forever. And that prophecy is found there in 2 Samuel. Well, from there we move to the fourth major story. And this is David's moral failing when he commits adultery with Bathsheba, and he orchestrates Uriah's death. Now, Nathan, the prophet, is going to confront David, and David's repentance highlights the themes of sin and judgment and forgiveness. If you want to read David's confession, take a look at Psalm 51 as he pleads with God to create a new heart in me. And then the fifth story is Absalom. Now, David's story David's family is going to be torn apart by strife culminating in Absalom's revolt. Absalom is going to sway the people to his side, and he is going to seek to have his own father killed. This narrative portrays the pain of betrayal, and the cost of ambition, as well as David's anguish over his son trying to kill him. And then, when he is being pursued by David's men, Absalom, who's known for his flowing locks of hair, I'm envious, and he gets his hair caught in the tree and is kind of hung there from the tree. And who should come along and execute him? Joab. All right? Even though God had instructed them not to harm Absalom. And of course, when Absalom is killed, David is devastated by this news. The final section of this book is found in, I had a picture for you. I thought this was fun. Here is Joab killing Absalom as he is being hung from the tree. The final section of the book of 2 Samuel, chapters 19 through 24, chronicles David's return to power after his run-in with Absalom, additional military exploits, his reflections on God's faithfulness, and the book concludes with a very poetic passage framing David's reign with God's redemptive plan. It's a beautiful book, and again, it's the continuation of 1 Samuel. So that brings us to the end here of the book of 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel is both an inspiring and sobering book. It captures the height of divine promise and the depths of human frailty. Its stories resonate deeply, offering lessons of faith and integrity and the unfailing grace of God. I want to remind you that the lessons that you see on Facebook, there's a change in policy with Facebook, and they are only going to be leaving up the live videos for 1 month after they've been done. Now that will start actually in June, so we got a little while yet. I am in the process of going back several years and trying to update all of those videos and making them available also on YouTube. But you can capture the last 2 years anyways of lessons on YouTube simply by going to www.youtube.com/@JimSchaefer8933. Now, if you add a back or /playlist, that will bring you to the page that lists all of the different Bible studies and how many videos there are in each series. For example, the series that this lesson is in is on understanding the Old Testament. I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope that you are all doing well. I will look forward to talking with you on Facebook. I do ask that you go ahead and keep me in your prayers. I'm going to have my second eye surgery on Thursday. I'm kind of anxious to get that over with. I'm seeing so much better out of one eye. It does mean I had to go back to glasses to read up close, but I can see everything, and that's a really good thing. So thank you so much for your time today. I want you to know we're praying for you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching.